Yes, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this fourth Adventure Tourism Uganda webinar. Um, Today, we're going to discuss cycling and running tourism. And I think, at least personally, I'm quite excited about this webinar because both of these topics are quite dear to me. And today we will be having this webinar with a host of guest speakers, and I will introduce them shortly. But I'm very excited to get this webinar going. And for those of you who aren't aware, this is a webinar series of 5 webinars that we are launching here in late 2023. And we will be discussing all kinds of adventure tourism related topics. All these recordings will be published on the website of Adventure Tourism Uganda and on YouTube. But there's also people who are joining this webinar live. But whether you are seeing this webinar live or later on, I welcome all of you. So today, we're going to do a few things. So we're going to discuss the potential for cycling tourism activities in Uganda. And well, as we will also demonstrate, cycling tourism activities are not necessarily the same as cycling activities. So we also will show sort of the extra things you have to take in mind when you think of tourism activities in particular. We will explore how you can offer such activities professionally. We will look at 2 interesting initiatives, because we will also look into running, and we're going to have the case study of Run Kapchorwa, which is a initiative in eastern Uganda in the Kapchorwa district. And we will also look at the Uganda cycling trail. And lastly, we'll also discuss how you can train others in the skills needed for a career in cycling or running tourism. So just a few practicalities. To everyone who is here, please keep your microphone muted unless we ask you otherwise. It will be semi-interactive. You can use the chat to ask questions, and sometimes we will also ask you to switch off your microphone and or switch on your microphone and to elaborate. But if we keep microphones muted during most of the webinar, it will be a bit orderly. Also, this webinar will be recorded and will be shared online, so that you can watch it back later on, and then you can also share it with people that you think might be interested in this webinar. So let's get started. First of all, I would like to introduce myself and also my 2 colleagues, my dear colleagues Priscilla and Maureen. So the 3 of us, we are working for an organization called I Open Work, based in Kampala. Although personally, I'm currently calling in from the Netherlands. But we are also involved in a project called Adventure Tourism Uganda, and we are part of the coordinating body for this project. So personally, my name is Alexander Bongers, or most people actually know me as Lex. And I'm the coordinator of Adventure Tourism Uganda. I'm a Dutchman. I've been living in Uganda for about 5 years. And I'm really happy to be in a position of being the coordinator of this program. And well, Priscilla and Maureen will be coordinating the backside of this webinar. So you won't hear them, but they will be very present. So today we are having 3 or actually 4 guest speakers. So first of all, we will be starting off with Thies, who's the founder and director of Red Dirt Uganda. So in fact, the guy with the beard that you see with the little picture is actually the same as this cool-looking guy. I think this picture must have been taken 10 years ago. So we're also excited to have Hope Charlotte Cherotich with us, who is the manager of Run Kapchorwa, and she will introduce Run Kapchorwa, this great initiative, to us. Finally, we also have Lawrence Kakande, who is a good friend of mine, but he is also a cycling guide, and he has his own company called Pearl Budget Safaris. And he will elaborate a little bit on what it's like being a cycling guide in Uganda. And then lastly, Daan Oxener of Home of Friends, who is one of the founders of Run Kapchorwa, will also introduce some of his other activities in Kapchorwa district. But that will just be a few minutes at the end of this webinar. I'm excited to have all of these guest speakers here today, and you'll all hear them speak. So just a brief introduction for those of you who don't know. So Adventure Tourism Uganda is a consortium of tourism companies in Uganda with the aim of professionalizing adventure tourism in Uganda. Because if there's one type of tourism in Uganda that has particular potential for growth all over Uganda, it is adventure tourism. And if adventure tourism is fulfilling its potential, it could create a number of jobs and a steady income to Uganda as a country. So we are doing this project, which is mostly focusing on product development, capacity building, and marketing. And it's a program that runs until the end of 2023. So in its current form, this program is going to stop. But of course, we are very interested in continuing collaborating to build the sector in Uganda. And just so you know, 50% of the funding comes from the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, whereas the other 50% is brought in by the companies themselves. So here is an overview of the tourism companies involved. There's Karatunga in Karamoja, there's Matoke Tours, there's Bergwandelen.com, which is a company that you might have heard in the previous webinar. There's Home of Friends Guesthouse in Kapchorwa. There is UG Motorbike, a motorcycling company. But there's also two cycling companies, Red Dirt Uganda and Trans Atlas Bike. And then there's iOpenerWorks, the organization where I work for personally. We would actually like to ask everybody in the chat or everybody that is present to introduce yourself in the chat. I'm curious to hear who is present at the moment. So let me also find out what is being written in the chat. So so far there's Priscilla and Charlotte, and let's see if there's other people who would like to introduce themselves via the chat, and then I'll read them out loud. All right, there is Bas, based in Kampala. It must also be a Dutch guy, I assume. Nice to meet you, Bas. And there we have my friend Lawrence. Good morning, everyone. Lawrence Kakande, cycling tour guide. Yeah, so good to have you here, Lawrence. And there's Thies. My name is Thies, founder and CEO of Red Dirt Uganda, cycling tour operator. Well, let me actually just wait with reading this out loud because I think he can just introduce himself by unmuting his microphone in a few seconds. Let me first check who is else present. So Florence Birungi, Florence Joanna from Sunny Outdoors in Uganda. So Sunny Outdoors is a shop that sells adventure tourism gear. I think it's one of the first in Uganda, and so far they've been very committed through this series of webinars. So good to have you back, Florence. I really appreciate it. Well, let's just move on, and I will read out who else is here. Oh, actually, Sadat Kawawa from Jinja is there. I think this is actually the Sadat that I know, who's
yeah, it is.
Yes, there you are. Good to see you, Sadat.
Yeah, good to see you.
So Sadat is a kayaker, and he is actually a professional kayaker. I don't know if that is the right word, kayaker, but he's very yeah. But you're very good in it, and good to have you here again, Sadat. Good to see you. Okay, so in the meantime, I will just have a look at the chat in the meantime. But let's move on. So Sadat is saying he just started a rafting company in the western part of Uganda. Oh, you're talking of the western part of Uganda. Where is that then, Sadat? You're muted at the moment. But,
yeah, can you hear me now?
yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so this adventure is quite close to Kanungu. It's a river that separates Rukungiri and Kanungu.
Okay.
And it's in between Buhoma for the gorilla trekking and Queen Elizabeth.
Ah, cool. Yeah. Well, good to hear about that. I'm curious to hear more about that later.
Yes, later.
So also to everyone in the chat, just to get to know you a little bit more, what is your experience with cycling? Are you new to it? Do you have your own company in cycling? Do you like to do it as a maybe for leisure, maybe for professional reasons? Just tell me what is your experience with cycling, and then we'll read it out loud. And while you're doing that, I'm going to continue to ask Thies maybe to elaborate a little bit on who he is and how he ended up in Uganda cycling industry. And then after that, I will read out what is said in the chat. So Thies, the floor is yours. I've been talking for way too long now.
Thanks, Lex. Good morning, everybody. It's great to be part of this webinar and to tell you guys about the beautiful activity of cycling, and specifically in Uganda. So my name is Thies, and I founded Red Dirt Uganda, a cycling tour operating company, around 7 years ago. I came to Uganda in 2012 for work, and I brought my bicycle because I'm a Dutchman, and as you know, the Dutch are being born with a bicycle between their legs. So I brought my bicycle. It was in my backpack, and as a leisure activity, I started to cycle, do some cycling rides in Uganda, and I was amazed by the beauty of the country, the friendliness of the people, the amazing wildlife, and the fact that it's so easy to cycle in Uganda. But I was shocked that almost nobody knew about this potential heaven for cyclists. So that made me think, and although I had to return to the Netherlands in 2014, it just stuck to my mind. I said, okay, why is nobody actually promoting Uganda? And then it struck to me that there's actually nobody offering cycling tours, and the best way to show the potential, the true potential of cycling in Uganda is by doing it. So I went back to Uganda in 2016 and I started the company. And we started very small. I brought just one suitcase with bicycle spare parts and an idea. And now we are a company with around 20 staff members. And we have a bicycle fleet of around 25 bicycles. And we're doing cycling activities in Uganda, but also Rwanda, and next year in Kenya and Tanzania. So yeah, if you are seeing this webinar and just think about Uganda as your first next destination to go on a cycling tour. It's the best place to go in the world. I'm not biased here.
And why do you believe it's such a great country for cycling tours?
Well, like I just said, it has amazing wildlife and nature. It's very special. It's a small country and it's easy to go from one place to another place on your bicycle. You don't need a car to cover some nice distances, and all the nice locations are within cycling distance of each other. So that's one thing. And the second thing is that if you stick on the unpaved roads, and there are many of them, there are amazing small roads that you can only discover on your iron horse. But if you stick on those roads, it's very safe and it's very easy to go around. You don't need a fancy car, and it actually gets you closer to the local communities as well. Now, this all combined is just, those are like the basic criteria for a good trip. Now, if you have somebody who can also improve that quality by offering good service and great bikes, then you have, I think, the perfect cycling trip in Uganda.
Cool. Yeah, no, I very much agree with you there. So yeah, can you elaborate, like, what are the type of cycling activities that you in particular think Uganda is great for?
Well, you might know that the traffic in Uganda can be quite dangerous, and then I mean on the main roads on tarmac. So we would always say best place to cycle is off the main roads, on the unpaved roads. So that rules out the basic road cycling that you see on television, Tour de France, most of the times. But it makes it a very good destination for gravel biking, mountain biking, and even bikepacking activities. If you're a bit into cycling, the enduro sports, like going fast downhill with a lot of protective gear, that's something that can be done in Uganda as well. It's still small, but places like Mount Elgin are like an ideal location for this. And I expect that in the near future, we will have a couple of tour operators or active doing this type of activities. But right now, mountain biking is the biggest, I think, activity when it comes to cycling. But gravel biking and bikepacking are really becoming big and growing very, very fast. And I think also Sunny Outdoors has the right kit that you need for bikepacking activities, for example. Just bring your tent and your sleeping bag, and it's that easy to travel around.
And I think also Rwanda nowadays is making a name for itself as a cycling destination. But is it correct that the type of cycling that Rwanda is focusing on is rather different from what Uganda should be focusing on?
It's definitely different. Rwanda is very much looking at road cycling. It's been this type of sport has been embraced by the government as well. And in 2025, they are organizing the World Championship of Road Biking in Rwanda. So that will put a lot of focus on Rwanda in specific, but also East Africa. That means that a lot of people are looking for cycling activities in those areas. But the fact that Rwanda is more focused on road cycling is because of the road conditions that are much better. Traffic rules are actually there and are being looked at by the police. It's a different situation. Now, Uganda could be focusing on road cycling as well, but I don't see that happening too much. I mean, there's still a great deal, a number of clubs and a great number of people who are involved into road cycling. But from a tourism perspective, yeah, the off-road cycling activities are more in favor here.
Cool. And I know you've been part of a project that has developed the Uganda Cycling Trail. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah. So our company is offering fully organized tours. That means that we organize everything from the moment that a person jumps on board. So we organize transport, accommodation, food, a guide, etc., etc. But for a lot of people, it's much easier and also more affordable to just go by themselves to Uganda. And there's always that fear of doing something new, not knowing what the best routes are, not knowing how to go forward. So for those people, we developed the Ugandan Cycling Trail, which is, like it said, around 1,600-kilometer trail, going from the most southwestern part to the most northeastern part of Uganda, covering, I think, most of the highlights in Uganda. But it offers like examples of trails. It gives tips and tricks on where to stay or what to do, how you can best prepare for your trip. And this, I think, in our eyes, is as our company is not making any money out of this, but it promotes cycling activities in Uganda. It shows that it is possible to do these cycling activities in Uganda. And it shows how beautiful it can be. There's a lot of people actually doing these trails or part of the trails, and we get messages like, this was so great, I wish I'd knew it before. So people are taking it up, and that's great. The more people are coming to cycle in Uganda, the more Uganda will be promoted as a premium destination for cycling activities. So the website, just to explain very briefly, the website offers all this information for free. You don't need any membership or any way to pay for it. It's just free. So go to www.ugandacyclingtrail.com.
And for a well, in the last webinar, we talked about route development, and one of the things that we emphasized there is that to build a route, it is more than just making sure that the trail is there. It's more than just the physical aspect of saying where A is or where B is, and like you also have to make sure that all those facilities are there, and you need to make sure that there's marketing, and you need to make sure that there is information on where you can stay or where you can get let's say a maintenance for your bicycles. So I assume for the Uganda Cycling Trail it's the same, but where is the Uganda Cycling Trail right now, and where do you see it going in the future?
Well, as I said, we developed a website with free information to follow a certain trail. It's actually, I would say, at its beginning stage. We want it to be kind of a route that can be developed by cyclists. So it's for cyclists, but developed by cyclists. So we hope that in the future we can actually expand not only the route, but also the website, and maybe make a complete loop through Uganda, where more accommodations, more others, companies who are offering cycling services can actually promote their business and show their added value for cyclists. But this is something that we can't do alone. So we need all help from the whole private sector and enthusiastic cyclists who are willing to contribute and share their findings and insights, so that we can actually share that with other cyclists as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think one of the reasons why I'm particularly excited for this cycling trail is also because Lawrence and myself are actually among the first to have cycled this entire cycling Uganda cycling trail, and we did so on a Roadmaster bicycle, and which is a bicycle without gears, like the ordinary village bicycles. And we cycled the entire 23 days. And the entire, what is it, 1,600 kilometers on this Roadmaster bicycle, and I can really tell you it was well, one of the greatest adventures of my life. I think Lawrence will also agree with that. So, and for us, we just went from Guesthouse to Guesthouse, and we stay in those local places, and sometimes we would stay at very fancy lodges because we could stay there for free in exchange for some marketing. And yeah, we really had a great time. So I can really encourage everybody to just start cycling, and the routes that Thies or that Red Dirt Uganda has developed were really helpful to us. So if you want to read more about this adventure, we developed a magazine, and you can access it online completely for free. And yeah, check it out. It's adventuretourismug.com/magazine. So I also think that for cycling, cycling activity safety is important. And Thies, can you maybe elaborate, like what are things that you need to consider when you want to make sure that your activities are done safely?
Yeah, sure. First, I want to comment on the picture on the previous slide, because the two of you made such an achievement. I sometimes have clients, they ask, is it hard to cycle in Uganda? Is it difficult? And then I always tell, well, there were two kind of crazy guys on very heavy bikes that actually cycled for 1,600 kilometers, and they didn't complain. And they weren't the fittest in the world. So if they can do it, then everybody can do it. So yeah, it's an activity for everybody that can be done, no matter how good your gear is. But going back to safety, it's funny that in the introduction slide where you showed you the three collaborators of this presentation, all the three of us were wearing safety helmets, cycling helmets. So yeah, it's good to keep safety in your mind, but also make it a priority in your activities. And that means that you have to understand that cycling comes with a risk always. It's easy to just fall, and even if it's simple soft landing, you can still bump your head into something really sharp and pointy. So it means that even the smallest thing, even if you're cycling slow and be as safe as possible, there's always a small risk. So that means that you have to be prepared, and that means that before you do a route, you have to know. You do the scouting, you know where the difficult technical points of a route are. You have to be sure that you know if something goes wrong, where can I bring my victim to? Is there a hospital very close? Is there transport in close proximity that can actually transport the injured person? We always work with AMREF, the flying doctors, for emergency evacuation. That's for really bad cases, and fortunately that has never been needed, but it's always good to be prepared. But it also means that you as a guide should actually know what you're doing. You should know where the dangers are. You should have done your first aid course, and you should carry your first aid kit. You should understand how traffic works. And the most important thing, is even more important than everything else, is to communicate this to your clients. Because if you know it, it's fine. And that's good, but if your clients don't know it, then you still might have a problem. So communication with your clients is very important. And I think this also stresses the fact that a trained bicycle guide is very important. I'll come back to this in a couple of slides, but we are setting up a training facility for bicycle guides in Uganda. So, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah, I think I forgot one thing. Of course, we have the human aspect, but there's also the technical aspect of the bicycle. Although a client can be very skilled, and you as a guide can protect your client for everything, but there's still a chance that yeah, the equipment breaks down, and your client can still make a crash. So make sure to have your equipment, especially a bicycle, serviced and maintained frequently and very well.
Great. So I think that is actually also the first tip in this next slide. So maybe you can just take it away.
Yeah, there's so many tips on how to develop cycling activities as a tourism in the tourism sector. But I think, yeah, maintenance is one thing that is very important, and that's also different from normal tools or other walking tools or other activities, is that your equipment should be 100% okay. And that means that maintenance is a very important aspect. Also, because of the risk of this sport, it's important to have waivers. That means that although you're doing your utmost best to prevent accidents from happening, it can happen, and it's part of the game, and clients should actually know this and accept this. I think point 3 is something that we already discussed, like the guided tour. The bicycle guide is actually a very important aspect in cycling activities, because it makes the tour so much nicer. When you're just cycling without a guide, you're just cycling from point A to B, which is very nice, but the bicycle guide can actually make this adventure really he can improve it. He can tell about the local history, he can tell about things that you see, he can tell about the stories that he experienced, and he can make this whole experience much better.
Yeah, because I notice both of us, we also like cycling in Kampala, just for the sake of cycling, and I can imagine that there might also be tourists who say like, well, but I'm a good cyclist. Like, why would I book a guide? But then really that added value is maybe also more in the, let's say, storytelling and those things, isn't it?
Yeah, I think especially storytelling and getting more information, but also about safety and about preventing problems or dealing with problems. For example, sometimes we pass through communities, and the communities are I don't speak the local language, although I wish I could. But in Uganda, there's so many different languages, so I can't speak all of them. So sometimes you pass through community and people are trying to say something to you. If you have a local guide, he or she can help you translate and actually maybe solve problems, or even maybe it's an invitation that, oh, can you please come to our home because we want to show it to you. Well, that's a wonderful experience too, which you would never have or understand if you wouldn't be working with a local guide.
Yeah. And well, so the fourth tip that we listed here is in my opinion also quite crucial. Like so often when especially hotels and guest houses want to offer cycling activities, they just have bicycles and you can rent them, and it costs you this amount, and often they are not fully maintained, but they don't really think about sort of developing it as an actual activity, and often it's a round trip. But I'm always wondering, like, why don't let's say the guest houses in Fort Portal collaborate with the guest houses in Kasese, or the guest houses in Entebbe collaborate with the ones in Kampala or the ones in Jinja. Like, you could, in my opinion, so easily develop a cycling product where you start in one place and you sleep there, and then you cycle to the other place, and then you stay over there, and then the next day, well, you cycle back or whatever. But this collaboration between different tourism companies in different localities is, in my opinion, it's quite obvious, but for some reason it's not as common as you might think it is. Do you agree?
Yeah, of course, everybody's working very hard on their own business, and sometimes people forget that collaboration can even bring more if we work together. And by doing things together, you can actually improve your own company. Going back to the example of the accommodations that you set is, if you would organize, for example, you spend some time and invest some money in developing a trail, just sending some person out there and developing a trail from one location to another location, then promote it, then people would actually come to your accommodation, book an extra night, not one, but maybe two, and then go on that cycling trail to the other lodge, and at the other lodge, they will spend 1 or 2 nights as well. So collaboration, I think, is key in developing adventure tourism, and especially cycling. But unfortunately, it's a trend that's actually happening right now in Uganda. There's a couple of lodges who have seen that, okay, offering good quality activities is actually a way to keep our clients happy, but also make them stay this extra night. So there's a tendency to reach out to cyclists who have some experience. They invite them, ask them, okay, can you explore the area around our accommodation, see if you can find some nice trails, and then maybe make some pictures, and then we can use that for promoting these activities. And the accommodation often offer like free stay and free food for the cyclists, which is awesome for me as a cyclist, because the one thing that I want to do is just sit on my bicycle and enjoy this beautiful nature. And if I can do it with free accommodation and food, then that's heaven. So fantastic. I also like the point 5 that you said about the village bikes, and it goes back to that cycling is available for everybody, and it doesn't depend on the equipment that you're using. You can just do it. The only thing you need to do is jump on a bicycle and go.
Yeah, and let's say you have a guest house, and you want to offer cycling tours. If you don't have any expertise on how to maintain them properly, and also in your locality there is no one who can do that, and most of the activities that in fact you're offering are shorter tours, well, then I would really recommend, like, use the local village bikes, because every village has people who can repair those type of bicycles. It's quite an authentic way of exploring the country, and I think, as Lawrence and I have showed, it's quite a nice way to do some cycling. So I mean, maybe don't do this if you're based in on top of a mountain, and the mountain is the biggest attraction, because then you will be walking like Lawrence and I had to do. But if you're based in let's say Kampala or Entebbe or Jinja, like those flat areas, then do consider those local village bikes. Over to you for the last part, Thies.
I think all of these activities are great, and will really help to develop tourism, and especially cycling activities in the tourism sector. But the most important one is that you have to show people what you're doing, and you have to promote your achievements, or even if you offer great service, let your clients promote it. That's why all these reviews on TripAdvisor and everything are very important nowadays. So please make sure that it's visible what you're doing. You can be a very offering a great cycling tour in Uganda, but if nobody has ever heard of it, then how will you be able to find more clients? So that's, and I think that videos and images, photos are the best way to promote it, because that really makes people understand what's nice and what's so beautiful about your activity.
I saw a very good question in the chat. Ellie raised it. He's saying it looks like a heavy investment is needed for starters, especially when it comes to the cost of acquiring a mountain bike. Do you have any advice on that? Good question.
I started with one mountain bike, which was my own, and I didn't invest in anything. What I did was I started offering tools, and I partnered with other organizations who could actually rent out bicycles. And of course, they won't be premium quality at first, but you have to start somewhere. And renting a car for doing those safaris is also an option. It doesn't mean that you have to invest. So you can start really small, and offering your tools can be done freely on several websites as well. You don't pay any money, only if they book a tour, you pay a certain commission. So I believe that it is possible to start very small, and you don't need to own all the equipment. You can start by renting. As long as you are trained and you offer something that people like, people will come back. And you save some of the money and slowly build up your business. And that's what I've done in the past 8 years as well.
Yeah. All right. And just what can we do in Uganda to make sure that Uganda becomes a better cycling destination?
I think there are two things that are most important. One is what we discussed just yet, like promote it, show people what you can do. And that means that can be best done if you collaborate, put all cycling companies together, and together you're promoting the activities, because then you stand stronger. But also, even if you're not collaborating, you can still promote activities. And you can promote all the nice things that you can do in Uganda. So that's one of the most important things. And the second most important thing is try to build it from within. So that means people are coming for great experiences, and great experience can, in my eyes, only be offered if you are offering quality. And quality can be done by staff members who are actually trained. So I think training of professionals who are active in the cycling industry is the key number two aspect that we should focus on.
Yeah. And do you also agree with the bottlenecks that I listed?
Yeah, it's cycling activities, cycling tours are a niche actually. They're not recognized by I think local authorities yet, also because they don't see the potential, or Uganda is not per se doesn't have a cycling culture. So it's hard to understand why cycling can offer actually activities and can be interesting for people. But yeah, so like you said, UTB, UA, they don't see the potential yet. But the only way how we can make it possible is by keep on showing them the true value, and keep on trying. When I started, I think there were only 3 companies offering cycling activities and almost no lodges at all. And nowadays, I think there are like 20 to 25 operating companies in Uganda active, offering cycling activities, and a lot of other tourism tour operators who are not into cycling activities want to offer them and are collaborating with those experts who in that level. And I think nowadays more than 50 to 100 lodges are actually offering cycling activities as a side activity to draw clients to the lodges. So it is growing, And also, adventure tourism is one of the fastest growing tourism sectors. So there is a huge potential there. And I'm sure that at some point, these organizations will recognize it and they will start to collaborate more. Then, of course, your second point about parts and the lack of quality repair shops, that is an issue, but I'm sure that it will it will work if people are coming here and there's a demand for these parts, but also high quality repair is coming, then more shops will pop up.
Yeah. So tell us about your big plan.
Yeah. So I said training from within is most important. So we are setting up an educational hub for professionals in the cycling industry. So you have to think about cycling guides, mechanics, spinning instructors, or entrepreneurs, shop owners. We think that if we train those people, not only will they increase their livelihood and will more jobs be possible, but also it will increase it will build upon the cycling sector, so it will reinforce itself. So if people have had a nice experience because of the nice cycling guide that accompanied them, then they will tell it forward, and more people will come. And I believe that if we train people very well, and then they will also be able to train other people, so they'll pay it forward as well. So our educational hub will be a training facility with a recognized certificate, and will be available for anybody at any place and at any time. So we are actually at this moment looking for partners who are willing to set this up with us. If you're interested, just reach out to me, and we'll see how we can move it forward.
Yeah, great. No, I'm very curious to see where this will be going in the future, and I really see the potential for this. So kudos to you for this. So let us actually move on to Lawrence, who is actually a cycling guide. And Lawrence, I'm curious to hear from you. I mean, you've been a cycling guide for a number of years now. What is it like being a cycling guide? Like how is the business going?
All right. Thanks, Lex, and everyone. It's a good morning still in Uganda. As Lex introduced my name, I'm Kakande Lawrence, a cycling guide. Sorry, I'll just move out of this place first, then I can have a good speech. So I'm a cycling guide, basically who started my journey way back. Cycling one, I would say I started it in 2013, cycling as a guide. Being trained with different local people and internationally. Where should I start? So as a guide, one, what I can say, one is cycling guides are more like site guides. Also, they are not more like safari guides, because people misunderstand between safari guides and cycling guides. So you find it's really different in a way whereby a cycling guide combines all the aspects of like being a safari guide, being a site guide, and being completely, like, it's a big package, because one, you have to have the maintenance skills. Two, you have to have the communication skills. Three, you have to have first aid skills. Four, you have to have like mostly how should I tell it? How should I tell me, like, more, you combine everything, like you know how to drive most times. It's not like really a must, but these are few things you should have into your hands, on your fingertips, because when you're cycling, you meet cars, so it comes to safety of your clients and yourself, because you have to think about it. Most times we go into single tracks, so as Thies said, up a site guide, most times you have to know how to to read your trails and how to explain the trails. So you may find the trail is designed, has some technicalities, let's say the downhills, the technical parts like the third where there are stones, the single tracks. So with the combination, you have to tell the client, you have to know like this part for sure with such group of clients I'm having, they can be able to pass in that place or not. So also that brings in communication. So as a guide, one, you have to package yourself well, have all the skills you need, not 100%, but at least I set my side like 80%. It's good for a guide to have such skills. One, I will elaborate more about how we did our local cycling, our village cycling experience, because that really brought me to the future. Like really, I can be a good guide, because at first also I didn't think it could be like that, because that also opened my cycling skills. Because being a guide, you don't need to be a good good cyclist first, or you don't need to be it's vice versa. So I don't want to be a good guide to be a good cyclist. You don't need to be a good cyclist to be a guide. No, it's just like you have to have laws to go with. So to me, a good guide, one, your fitness, it's different. You have to be more fit. So being fit, it's the key, because you never know which type of client you have. Some are really fast, some are not fast. But if you are fit, doesn't mean like.
How do you find out, Lawrence? How do you find out what the skills of your clients are?
Normally, you have to. There's a wavy being sent to clients. Like I myself, most times in the briefing, like if I'm given a job, let's say from Red Dot, I have to ask maybe whoever was in touch with the clients, how is the fitness levels, what. But one, as a guide, the key thing is on trail. So you brief them maybe in the morning. They will never tell you the truth. Maybe they will tell you what they feel like. But on the trail, day one and day two, or one day, or the first 2 hours, they will show you how your clients are. Keep it easy, or they go fast. Then you have to read it to be able to read it in your head. Like this type of group is really fast, or it's very slow, or it's intermediate. So what do I have to do? So sometimes, however much you are fit, you don't need to go very fast. Let the client, most times, like to me, I say, I first stay at the back. I give you the rhythm to see how you push. Then that gives me what to speak and what to go with. So most times you have to be more creative as a guide, because being creative, it helps you to learn how clients behave. Because sometimes one will not tell you straightforward, or will not start by reacting, cycling very fast. He may go very slow to keep reading you. Are you a faster cyclist or not? So it's 50-50, but you have to be more creative and open to your brains to know what the clients really are. Yeah.
Right. And so can you also elaborate a little bit on the specific skills that you think a guide need to have as compared to other guides? I know you already mentioned a few, but for me it's really important to emphasize that not every guide is a good cycling guide, and also and especially not every good cyclist can become a good guide. So can you elaborate a little bit on what it is that needs specific attention in cycling tourism?
Okay. As a guide, one, I would say you should be able to communicate. That's the key skill to me. I always take in precaution, like as a cycling guide, one, before anything, you don't need to be, but your communication skills. So one, I also used not to be one of the best communicators until today, but I've been like being mentored by people. So you don't need to be coward and say, how will I learn my communication skills? But it's all about like socializing with people, and also maybe getting advice from different people. If you're really interested in doing something, how have they been doing this? How can I improve? So communication to me is really a key. It's one I can say. Second, you need to have the safety. Maybe you don't need to go to school, but if you can have a chance to have someone who can teach you the first aid skills, that's really something, a key thing, because remember, most times when you're on trails, we are one-on-one. We are not having like first aid support there and then. So sometimes it can take like 10 minutes if it's so close to you. Sometimes even more minutes, maybe to 1 hour to reach you, because sometimes where it depends on the location where you are. So first aid skills is also something really a key, because that will help you to save someone's life, even yourself, in case there is something really bad happens. Let's say someone gets like just simple accidents. Those are easy to clean. You can clean, you know how to clean them, how to dress. In case you can say maybe this doesn't need like my work, then you know how to stop maybe bleeding. So those are some of the few stuff as a guide you need, like when it comes to safety. Also, safety, it's quite something really big. As a guide, you can't finish, but you have to have the basics. You have to know how the bike's cause function, because it's part of the safety and maintenance. Because many people think safety is about only health, but your bicycle, it's also part of your safety. Because as a guide, you need to know this bike is in good shape, it's in good condition. You have to check it, make sure you have enough pressure, you have the gears maybe are functioning. If it's not gears, the brakes are really key. Are they functioning? So as a guide, you need to do more of such maintenance trainings a little bit, or read online, or yourself. Yeah, you have to try yourself to do some of them. You have to know how to read the trails. Most times, like as Lex said, we went together cycling on a local bike, but there are some points we couldn't pass. So we could just sit down as a guide and like, I think that side we can't go because of this and this, maybe of the hills. And also the guide, why it's a safety part, because you now have to know, like, if it rains and it's really raining, maybe it's a single track and it's full of water. So you can't tell if there's a big dish in front of you or not. And your clients are always in to cycle. For them, it's really adventurous. But what do you do? In case they fall in, it will be a problem. You can't say, it wasn't my problem. So always clients they know you have been on the trail. You know how it is. You have done your analysis about the trail. So as a guide, that's how it comes in. As they said, if you know the local languages, it's really good. Like also communication, that's how it comes in. So you will be able to read, to ask maybe around the place. So you are providing safety to your clients. Also to know about the kilometers, because that's a key. Many people have to know the kilometers, the elevation, the distance. So it's part of also safety and trail mapping, because if you know the kilometers, you'll be able to communicate to people and tell them how many kilometers you have, how many hills do you expect. So some people really, they have their energy levels can't go maybe above 1,000 elevation up. So you find like some people are asthmatic, so they can't go really on high altitude. So you have to know you are providing safety. So if you explain this to them, then they'll give you their opinion. So for your safety and their safety, then you have maybe to change or to stick on the trail. So that's part of one I can say if it comes to safety. Being social, really, it's really something nice as a guide. You have to be social, very open to the clients and to yourself, because if you are not open to yourself, you may end up also your life and your safety is also a key as a guide. Because if imagine a guide, you don't take your safety and something happens to you in the middle of the trail, so the clients are left alone hanging. So everyone will be, maybe they have nowhere to start from. So as a guide also, you need to be social, be open to yourself. You need to also really take sure, like, it's not all about only clients or visitors, but also you are part of the deal.
Thank you, Lawrence. And as a last question to you, like you are a freelance guide, so in that sense you're also an entrepreneur. How do you get business? Like how do tourists find you? or how do tourism companies find you? Like, what do you do to ensure that that you are having as many activities as you can?
All right. As a guide, one, that's I take things in my life. One, teamwork. I'm a teamwork guide. So, one, I'm gonna explain why I get how I get my business, but I'll things which maybe people I think they always call me for the business teamwork. Being precise, also it's being straight. So how do I get the clients? One, I'm trying to learn to be one of the good photographers, maybe on the trails. So I take pictures most times, and whenever I'm taking the pictures, I have to put them, like I post them on my social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. Also, this helps me, like people will find out, Lawrence does this. Who is Lawrence? Who is this? Also, putting in hashtags that helps me to get more like people to know. Making friends on trips. Also, it's good. Like people, when they go back, they will be like, "Oh, we went to Red Dot. We did cycling with the Red Dot, but our guide was Lawrence. So please, when you go to Uganda, if you're doing a trip maybe with Red Dot, or you're gonna be going to this point, feel free to meet Lawrence. He's a really good guide, or whatever they will speak about. So that's something else I do. Making friendship with companies, doing tourism here, basically the adventurous parts like cycling in Uganda. So also not only cycling, but other companies. So I always interact with the other companies if I meet them. I explain to them, being good enough, like, I'm Lawrence, I do this. I'm a cycling guide. I've been doing this for this time. In case you have a client who love to do cycling in Uganda, feel free to let me know. This is my contact. If you feel like not offended to have it. So you need to also ask. You don't need to say, this is my contact, I have it. So as a guide, communication is a key. You need to play around your cards in a smart way, and also to be really open, like, so that really helps you. So you find out, like, okay, Red Dot has clients. It'll be like, okay, we have a big trip, we need 4 guides, so Lawrence is there. Should we call him? Yeah, we call him. Hey, are you available? Yes or not? So also to the guides, it's a key thing always to be open and straightforward. If you have a trip, don't mix things. Tell people, really, I have a trip, I will not make it. But if you say, I have a trip, I don't have a trip, so you want to balance everything, you put everything in one pocket, it's impossible. So one at a time, you make it. So to me, that's more on social media, making friends, making cooperations with the companies, and also more interactions, like going out. You don't need to be only in the companies, but also socializing with the other people around the place. So you go out, as you go maybe to a club, if you are on a party, be old enough to explain who you are, with friends. So you never know what comes out. So that's how you market yourself. And also,
Thanks, Lawrence. I really appreciate you for elaborating on this. And what I also particularly appreciate is how you try to work with other tourism companies in making this work. So we are about to close off our cycling part, but I would like to just give the floor to Thies once more to maybe say a few last words, and then we go into the running tourism aspect.
All right, thanks. I just wanted to get back to Lawrence as well. We had the pleasure to be working with Lawrence on occasion, and he's just a great guide. And as you can see and notice, he's a great storyteller. So he's dedicated, and he's delivering quality, and that's, I think, what we should focus on: quality, and then the rest will come. My last words: come to Uganda to experience the best cycling adventure in the world.
Yo, thanks, Thies. I really appreciate it. So let us now actually. Oh yeah. Before we move into the running tourism thing, there's just a few links that I would like to highlight. So we are going to share the slides with everyone that is present. Make sure that you leave your email address with us, and then we can send it to you. When you close off this webinar, there's a survey, and if you fill in that survey, you can also leave your email address. But just a few things we would like to link to the Uganda Cycling Trail and the Adventure Tourism magazine. But there's also a very interesting study done by CBI on how to access the European customer market for cycling tourism. So if you're a cycling tourism company in Uganda, or you're any tourism company in Uganda, and you would like to tap into this customer base in Europe, then CBI has some very useful tips. So again, these are just links, and we will share them with you. Moving on. So, well, first of all, also thank you, Thies, for your good words, and also Lawrence, thank you for what you shared with everyone. I think we all learned a lot. But now we are moving into running tourism, which is a specific niche as well. I think cycling tourism is already a sub niche within adventure tourism, and so is running tourism. And especially in this lovely district of Kapchorwa, running tourism is becoming bigger and bigger. And there's one initiative behind it. It's called Run Kapchorwa, and it's managed by Charlotte. And I would like to ask Charlotte to well, introduce herself and to maybe elaborate, like why is Run Kapchorwa such a success, and why is Kapchorwa itself called the Land of Champions? And just a quick quick rectification. Also here, I butchered Charlotte's name, so it's actually Cherotich. So apologies for that. Yeah, Charlotte, maybe why don't you introduce yourself and maybe introduce the Land of the Champions? Thank you. Charlotte, we can't hear you.
Yes, please. Good morning, everyone.
Now we can hear you. Good morning.
Yes. My name is Hope Charlotte Cherotich, current general manager with Run Kapchorwa. I started off working with Run Kapchorwa in 2021 as a community operations coordinator, part-time by then. And it was a great start working with the community. It was really a good base for me. And later on, these other promotions came by. But just to set off, what is Run Kapchorwa? Run Kapchorwa was, of course, started earlier, though there were different there was already a concept on ground before Run Kapchorwa came up. Daan was already in Kapchorwa by then, and he started off with from coach to coach. And then already working with the community and trying to promote athletics as a sport, mostly in the tourism sector. And later on, he was joined by Mark from Adventures in Running or Sport for Africa. And that was in 2018. And in 2020, with the Adventure Tourism Uganda initiative, it was later on, the two combined, Mark and Daan, and they formulated the Run Kapchorwa project, which was still under the Adventure Tourism. And since then, Run Kapchorwa has grown over the years, and maybe to the bit of why Kapchorwa. Kapchorwa is one of the established high altitude training destinations in East Africa. And what makes it that is when you look at the altitude and the several aspects that are in Kapchorwa, the weather, too, is the elevation in Kapchorwa. Then also the champions. It's called the Land of Champions. Why? Most of the reigning champions we have in Uganda are all from Kapchorwa. The likes of Joshua Cheptegei, Jacob Kipimo, Perot Chengai, the Simba family, there are a number of members there. I'll mention a few. Stephen Kiprotich. So even that very many champions come up from this area. That's how the name, the Land of Champions, comes up, and we targeted to Kapchorwa, or Kapchorwa is going to be the Land of Champions because of the few examples I've given right there. So Kapchorwa is also based on slopes of Mount Elgon, and it has a very beautiful scenery, and with other things to do with nature, ranging from waterfalls. It has a very beautiful culture. It has even the culinary bit is really very good. I would not like to divert from the sports side, but just giving a brief on the other side. Yeah. So later on along the way, we also came up with the bike capturer project, which I don't want to dive much into because the cycling area has already been discussed. But bike capturer came up as a result of Run Kapchorwa, and because it was also discovered that Kapchorwa still had beautiful trails for cycling, given that it was mountainous, and we mainly use the mountain bikes for cycling, those with gears. And a big thank you to Lawrence and Lex. These two gentlemen cycled, climbed the hills of Kapchorwa with our local bikes. You guys, kudos. It wasn't easy, and these guys did it. We welcomed them along the way. We surprised them, gave them a nice welcome, but we saw how hard it was. So you guys, congratulations upon conquering that. So that's a brief on Run Kapchorwa. In case of any questions, please go ahead and ask, share.
Thanks. And also I think it was last year also that the Dutch ambassador came to visit you. Can you maybe elaborate also who this gentleman is that we see in the picture?
The Dutch ambassador visited us last year, and the gentleman you see in the picture is Coach David Cherotich. David Cherotich is a long distance runner. He's a marathoner, and he has attended several athletic events around, mostly in the Netherlands. And he's our current main guide with Run Kapchorwa. He has undergone different training sessions on being a guide and a better guide with different skills over the years. And what is also unique about David Cherotich is the biological brother to the Olympic champion, Stephen Cherotich. So this is a family of sportsmen, and he has a passion for running. He's a teacher by profession, but he quit teaching and decided to fully join the running side and pursue his passion. So that is a brief on David Cherotich.
And can you maybe elaborate, like, so Run Kapchorwa is an initiative to promote running, various kinds of running activities in Kapchorwa district, but it's especially focusing on exploring or developing the potential for tourism activities when it comes to running, right?
Yes.
So how do the different companies and organizations in Kapchorwa work together to make this happen and to establish Kapchorwa as a running destination?
One is partnerships and collaborations with different organizations and guest houses also around us. Secondly, we also talk about the development of tourism packages over the years. Run Kapchorwa's main partner is the Home of Friends Guesthouse. And over the years, with guidance from tour operators and feedback we have gotten from clients previously, we have been able to grow and develop more packages over time. For example, from the guided runs, we had the athlete development sessions, which we shall talk about in details later on. Then the other thing also is the development of routes or trails over the years. As Thies also discussed, it's very important that these trails are developed and well known to the clients and to the community. So yeah, that's a brief.
Yeah, and so currently, if tourists would visit Kapchorwa, there is different activities that they can do, right? Can you maybe explain a little bit, like what are the different types of running activities that can be undertaken by tourists?
Yeah, apparently we have three main activities that are being offered by Run Kapchorwa. One is the guided runs. Talking about the guided runs, we have developed trails or mapped out trails that are used by guests when they visit or when they book for these guided activities, and they range in distances, and they also have different elevations. So they also depending on the how good the client is, as Lawrence had earlier on discussed during the briefing. We also get to interact with the client and get to know what they are, what they can manage when it comes to distance and elevation and all that. Then secondly, and the guided runs are more of solo. It's basically the client with a guide. So when we talk about the athlete development group sessions, that is also the other package that we offer. The athlete development group sessions here, we have kids, as I mentioned earlier, we had from coach to coach, which had that had mentored kids, and over time these kids grew and were able to form a community of athletes, and that is where the athlete development group session came up from, and whatever proceedings are collected from this session strictly go back to supporting that group. So here the client books an activity and experiences a guided run with the community or a group run with the community, basically the kids, and they can also get to select which age group they would like to run with. So that's the athlete development group sessions. Lastly, we have the residential running camps. These are longer. This is a longer package for more so athletes that are maybe training for a specific event or for a specific run. Maybe, and this can even take up to 2, 3, 4 weeks. It's really a longer period. The others I've mentioned are really short. It can be 3 times or 2 times, but the residential running camps are longer. And this has been all with help from our partner, the Home of Friends Guesthouse, that is able to provide the accommodation bit, and also other activities, the other 2 activities to enable that the clients don't get bored in the period of their training or stay.
So please allow me to maybe elaborate a little bit, like why is it that runners like to go up to higher elevated areas, to running over there, and why is it that Mount Elgin has produced so many good runners? It has to do with indeed the elevation aspect. So just to mention this for those of you who aren't aware, but if you're located higher up a mountain, there's a lot less oxygen there, so your body has to create extra red blood cells, which allows you to get more oxygen from the air. And so that means that your body is adapting to the higher altitude. And that means that if later on you're going to run at a place that is maybe at a lower elevation, you can get more oxygen from the air, and that way your results will be better. So nowadays at Mount Elgin, there's this Thies. Do I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Is a training center really high up on the mountain, where athletes can go to stay there for a while and to train at this really high elevation, and this will really help to improve their results when they're going for a run, let's say at a very low elevated place, for example in Europe. So I just wanted to mention that in case people aren't aware. So, but that is also the reason why in Kapchorwa there's also this residential running camp package for maybe semi-professional athletes that just want to become a better runner, and they're staying in Kapchorwa for a while. And while they are there, of course, they are also tourists themselves, so they might also be interested for, let's say, cultural tours or coffee tours or maybe some cycling. So I just wanted to highlight that. Charlotte, what can we learn from Run Kapchorwa when it comes to the community benefits from such activities? Like, how do you ensure that it's not only the companies directly involved that are benefiting from this from the influx of tourists, but that it is also the community at large that is benefiting from it?
Right. Maybe I'll start by giving an example of myself. I joined Run Kapchorwa part-time by then, and I'm from Kapchorwa. My name is Cherotich, and I'm a Sabine by tribe. And joining Run Kapchorwa, I joined it as a community operations coordinator, and over time I've managed to grow. So that was an employment opportunity for a community member right there, which happens to be myself. And it was really wonderful starting up with something I'd never done before, and that is to do with tourism. But I had passion for something related to tourism activities. And over time, I've managed to grow. Secondly, Run Kapchorwa has also been engaging in different skills within the community. As I talked about the athlete development group that we have, over time we have been skilling the athlete development group. Most of the group that we have may be illiterates. The majority did not go to school or went to school and ended on the way. So sometimes English has been a problem, and we have engaged over time to maybe give in some basic English knowledge classes. And all this has been happening at the Home of Friends Guesthouse. Run Kapchorwa has also trained part of the members in the community, not only those ones in athletics, but generally the community in IT skills. That is the computer training. This was done. This started way before I joined Run Kapchorwa, and it impacted the community because I keep hearing the results out there. And someone's like, I was trained at Home of Friends with computer here and there, and I got to learn this from there. Thirdly, we talk about when you look at when you visit our merchandise, Run Kapchorwa receives through the revenues that we earn from the tourism. We are able to ensure that this is consistent and sustainable, and a sustainable project, because it is not a profit-making venture from the start. As Thies has also mentioned, we're not making any monies from the beginning, but to ensure sustainability and consistency, Run Kapchorwa had to think about ways on how to engage with the community and ensure things are done. For example, Run Kapchorwa introduced the Champions Coffee and the Champions Honey. These are items from the community that are sold within the Home of Friends Guesthouse to tourists. And in this way, the tourists are impacting on lives of the community members economically, because at least coffee is sold, honey is sold, and economically things are changing around the area. Secondly, when you have to look at, for example, the camps, the long camps that we have, the running camps, some tourists financially are not able to cater for accommodation. Budget-wise, it may not be friendly for them in a guest house for that long period of time. And members of the community that have lodges or apartments have been able to benefit economically still through the provision of accommodation to the tourists. So I would have that for now.
All right, thank you. And I think well, what I really like about what you've been saying is particularly also that collaboration with coffee and honey producers. Sorry. And I think if there's one thing that is demonstrated here, is that running activities can also have spin-off to other companies, and the same goes for cycling companies. The same goes for, let's say, hiking companies. But in adventure tourism in general, there is quite a lot of spin-off into other activities and to other companies, because let's say a running activity can easily be combined with, for example, a coffee tour or a visit to honey producers. And there of course, there's a few people that would come to Uganda specifically for running, especially if they want to train on a high elevation. But most people interested in running in Uganda, these would be tourists that are just adventurous in general, and they would like to go on a running activity for 1 or 2 days, but they would easily like to combine it with something else. And I really like the idea of also, for example, branding your coffee as Champions Coffee, because then there's this nice link between the running and the coffee. So I just want to give a shout out to that. Charlotte, what are some of the lessons that you learned over the years of running Run Kapchorwa?
One basic thing I've learned is the community, because what is so interesting is my first role with Run Kapchorwa was actually coordinating with the community, and that was my learning point. And I learned that over time you have to understand the community that you are venturing in, that you're having your activity with. Most when it comes to tourism, it's kind of tricky. The community has to clearly understand what tourism is, how it's going to impact them, and several other factors that come right there. And over time, one thing I've learned is when you look at Barawa, where the Home of Friends Guesthouse is located, the community members have gotten used to tourists being around the area. And recently we have been having tourists coming in, and they're having guided runs, or they're even renting bikes. And you find that they're very comfortable around the community. Why? Because the community freely interacts with them, and it's the issue of Muzungu is not really so much a thing, because the community is just so the tourists really feel they are part of the community already, or they feel at home once they're around. And something I'd also forgotten to mention is Kapchorwa itself means a home of a friend, and that is where Home of Friends derives its name, the Home of Friends guest house still. So the friendship bit here is very important, and the community, every community member is really important and directly influences every activity that we hold. Even when we have been having events over time, and we have been partnering with the Red Dot, that there's a time adventure tourism was on board, and most of the members we had were from within the community. And if I'm to get feedback from Lex, you would really see the community and the Run Kapchorwa Home of Friends, the relationship was really so good, and that's how we have grown over time. And secondly is having a variety of trails. Over time, Run Kapchorwa has developed different trails, and clients or tourists are able to really select from a variety. We don't have one specific, depending on what they can manage. And then second, when you look at Kapchorwa is rainy most of the time, and it has different seasons. So over the time, we have been able to also identify what are the rainy seasons in Kapchorwa, what are the dry seasons. And so when we are communicating with our clients, we advise them accordingly on what the best trail would be, given their expertise, and what the best time for having this activity would also be. Then lastly, we have also partnered with other tour operators to ensure that our product reaches a variety of clients from all over the world. We have partnered with people who travel for fun. We have partnered with, as Lex said, you go getting the content and you offer the accommodation for free. Home of Friends has done that several times, giving tourists who are really outside there selling something the liberty to maybe access a certain product for free, and in turn offer a service of selling something about Home of Friends or Run Kapchorwa out there to the world. Then we have also partnered with other places around Kapchorwa, other hotels that are not able to offer the activities that we offer. And in turn, we also give them the partnership deed of, in case we receive maybe guests at the guest house that cannot afford maybe the accommodation that we have, or are not comfortable with the camping, there's always that other accommodation around the town. So that's how we have managed to grow over time.
All right, thank you so much, Charlotte. Personally, I think it's quite inspiring what you guys have been doing. But I just wanted to also mention a few things for tourism companies that are interested in offering running activities in other places in Uganda. So similar to cycling, running tourism is, well, still in its let's say infancy in Uganda, and there are particular types of running tourism that have a lot of potential in Uganda. And so let me just mention a few of them. So of course there are event-based activities, so let's say marathons or triathlons, and they are already happening at a number of places in Uganda. And I think these types of activities are of particular interest to domestic tourists. So people living in Uganda, whether they are Ugandan or whether they are expats. These types of activities are really taking place at a specific day, and often there's a competition element involved. If it grows over time, you might also see international tourists becoming interested in that. But I do think that that is still going to take some time. Like, as far as I know, there's hardly any international tourists that would have come to, let's say, Kampala to participate in the MTN marathon. But maybe there are a few. But in other places in the world, you do see people flying into a specific location for a specific event. But I think what is already happened, what is already more, let's say, more established, is the activity of trail running. So trail running is running in at unpaved places. So let's say the Panya routes, and similar to how Thies explained, that's cycling in Uganda has particular potential on the unpaved roads, on the Maram roads, and on the little trails. The same goes for running, and trail running really has a lot of potential all over Uganda. And there is quite a large base, a customer base, internationally speaking, that would travel to a specific country just to do trail running. And then, of course, it can be combined with other activities as well. But I do think if there's one type of running in Uganda that has a lot of potential, would be trail running. But maybe the lowest hanging fruit or the easiest to implement are actually simple short runs that are guided by local guides. And I think this is something that guest houses and hotels and lodges all over Uganda could develop relatively easy, because there's very little equipment that you need to get this going. However, you shouldn't underestimate the amount of skills that the guide needs to have. But I do think that, especially if you have those activities where maybe people might be staying at your lodge for 1 or 2 days, and it may be a stopover at a larger itinerary, or it could be like this short holiday of a weekend. Those guided runs, they have a lot of potential, and for some reason in Uganda, you don't really see it that often, even though there's quite a number of tourists, whether they are domestic or international, that like to go for a run, but then often they would just do it by themselves. So hopefully in let's say 10 years from now, you see running activities being offered all over Uganda, and then specifically those shorter guided runs, those leisure runs. And of course, there is this small customer base of professional runners that would be interested in high altitude training. but I think obviously this only has potential in places that are on a high altitude, and I think especially Mount Elgon is the ideal location for that. Well, maybe in the future you might see things in the Ranzoris or the Virungas as well, but I don't really see that happening easily. But again, if you want to develop running activities, think put extra attention to how you package those activities. It's not a matter of just going for a run and that's it, and then let tourists pay for it. No, you have to think carefully, like what is the route that you do? How do you make sure that the guide is really of added value? Because again, you're competing with people who might also do this just independently. So you really have to package this activity well. And in the next webinar, which is going to take place in 2 weeks from now, we're going to look into product development and packaging of adventure tourism activities. So in case you're interested in finding more about how to do so, please make sure that you're present in that webinar. Thank you so much, Charlotte, for well, introducing Run Kapchorwa to us. To everyone, there's also just a few useful articles that I would just like to share with you. Of course, there's a website of Run Kapchorwa, but there's also an exploration done again by CBI on sports tourism. How can you develop sports tourism, and especially if you want to appeal to the European customer markets. And I also found an article by Runner's World, which is, I think, the largest running magazine in the world. And they gave, let's say, I think it was a top 10 of greatest running activities that like tourism activities that can be done worldwide. And to me, it was quite inspiring. So I just want to share that with you. And finally, there is also Home of Rent, so one of the initiators of Run Kapchorwa that is organizing a family outdoor festival this December. And I just wanted to well, also invite Daan to maybe elaborate a little bit on the activities that Home of Rent is doing in Kapchorwa at large, and maybe talk about this festival in particular. So Daan, I hope you're here and you can just unmute your microphone and maybe elaborate a little bit about what you guys have been doing and what you're organizing in December.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Lex and team, for the invitation. Before I go to that festival we are organizing the end of this year, I would like to elaborate a little bit more on building a strong tourism system in a region, which is what we have been doing since 2016, 2017. And that's all about teamwork and passion. So the people, I hope you can somehow see them on these photos, are the stakeholders from Kapchorwa who have developed new products together with us. And really on that intersection of running, biking, hiking, and also a lot of cultural activities like cooking, campfire storytelling, dance experiences, etc. And that's really a great opportunity for everyone. As has been referred to already by you, the potential beyond Stipi I'm talking about around Kapchorwa town, Kwen district, is enormous. Many more waterfalls, friendly community, and the community where the Jajas and the brothers and the sisters of the champions live. And even if you're not into running as such in itself, we've discovered then people will still want to learn more about why is it that they became so strong, and why is it that we have almost 5 champions from a small group of families in the rural district of Kwen, just behind Kapchorwa. Yeah, so this is a great opportunity because we are developing with the people you see on the screen these long stay packages, and that goes, yeah, for the runners it's mostly longer if they really prepare for a marathon, but for the multi-adventure experiences with some culture in it, it takes mostly up to 7 to 10 days. And yeah, we really see a growing interest, a growing number of tourists buying into this. And to showcase all this, we decided with this group of people, with our team, to organize a family outdoor festival, a family festival because of the time of the year, with a combination of fun family games, going on one day to the village close to Jacob Kiblimo's home in Kwen district to explore a large cave and waterfalls there. What else? The cultural cave near Home of Friends we'll pay a visit to. So a combination of fun, also time to relax, and to spend time with your family, with several families, at our base and in the beautiful surroundings. And yeah, if you're interested, it would be really great to spend some time together. The end of the year, you can click on the link, or you can call Charlotte. You've got to know her, one of the coordinators, to directly book. Maybe we can share the phone number on the chat.
Cool. Thank you so much, Daan. So if I understand correctly, this outdoor festival is aimed at families in particular.
In particular, and not exclusively. And if you've been to Home of Friends, well, it's in the name. The holiday seasons, we always have. We have couples around, we have singles around, solo travelers, and also families, and that combination makes it really nice. But yeah, we've learned all, I think, in marketing that we need to choose a niche or focus, right? That's why why the family focus came in.
Cool. Well, then, yeah, I wish you all the best with the festival. I would have loved to be able to be there with you. But also, thank you so much for doing this wonderful work. So I'm saying this to you at Home of Friends, but also all the other people involved in the Run Kapchorwa initiative. I really think this is inspiring. So with that being said, I would just like to highlight that as Adventure Tourism Uganda, we are also developing a number of open source training materials for the adventure tourism sector, and in this we are collaborating with an initiative called Ukerimu, for which I'm also involved personally. So just wanted to mention that in case you're interested in any training materials on hospitality, product development, digital marketing for the tourism industry, you can just go to ukerimuacademy.org and you can just download it for free. At this very moment, I'm also developing training materials on cycling and on running tourism. And these modules, as well as all the other topics that we covered in these webinars, these modules will be launched by the end of this year. So they're almost ready. But I just wanted to mention what they are. So they are modules that can be used by anybody that wants to train other people on those particular topics. And so it gives you more knowledge about the specific niche, and then it comes up with a whole list of different exercises that you can do to train others in these topics. all those modules will be available on adventuretourismug.com and ukerimuacademy.org, and they're completely free to anyone. But I just wanted to also give a teaser of how, for example, an introduction into cycling tourism and on running tourism could look like. So for running tourism, this is for cycling tourism. So we believe that in 2 days, you can give a introduction into cycling. So you are, so believe me, you won't be able to be an expert into cycling tourism by going through this training, but at least you do get an introduction into it. And then a day could look like this. So first you would have an introduction into the topic, then you would dive into the different elements of a bicycle. There would be a brainstorm and workshop on different traffic rules and also how to cycle safely. So you would get practice in cycling and communicating while riding your bicycle. There would be a workshop on maintaining your bicycle and make sure that it is ready for being used. So how do you check your tires? How do you make sure that everything is in a good condition? And then there would be a tour. And then on the second day, you would dive into the role of the guide. And there would be different exercises around it. And then you would develop your own cycling activity, and you present it to each other. And again, you're closing off with a mountain bike tour. So again, in those training modules, we will give you detailed information on how to do those things exactly. For running tourism, it would look something like this, or probably it would be a shorter training. So just 1 day of training can already give you some sort of an introduction into running tourism. So you would start off with a proper warming up and a guided run to already get going. And then back in class, you have a brainstorm, like what is running tourism and how do you organize it, and what are the types of activities that you can do. And then you're going to look at the role of the guide, and then you would develop your own running tourism activity. And after that, you're going to go on another run. So again, when you look at those training modules that will be published later this year, you will read more on how to do those things exactly. So we've come to the end of this webinar, and I wish to thank all of you for being present. This is the fourth webinar of a series of 5. So that means that there's only a webinar still coming up, which is particularly on product development, a bit on marketing, and also on how we can collaborate on building this sector, the adventure tourism sector at large in Uganda. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you are present on December 14th. So it's a Thursday, it's not a Friday. And again, we'll do it from 10 to 12 East African Standard Time. And in case you're not able to be there, again, that webinar will also be recorded, so you can also watch it back later. But I wish to thank all of you for your time today, and we hope to see you again. And please make sure that you fill in the survey that automatically opens up when you close off this window, because we want to learn from how this webinar was and how we can improve it the next time. Thank you so much, and I wish all of you a great day.
Thank you, Lex, and all the guest speakers. Have a lovely day.